Here's a video about the trip to Vietnam in 2024. We flew again EVA Air to Ho Chi Minh City and then took a car ride to My Tho, where Tammy's family's from. And here we are already in My Tho. There are some cows on the side of the road. And there was some sort of kite festival going on in an open area. That's the view outside Tammy's parents' house. That's Tammy. And that's her mom's Bum Bo Hue soup stall. That's the neighbor's dog, Bap. Turns out she was actually pregnant that year. They found out once we left to travel to other cities. She comes over to try to get food from Tammy's mom's food stall.
Nè coi nè, mẹ hù nó đi đây. Ba. Về. Đi.
Wow. This is the market in My Tho, not too far from their house.
No, on this side.
Went to buy some passion fruit, and they wouldn't sell you only just one or two, so
That's always how it is.
ended up with a full bag of passion fruit.
Oh shit. Quick, flip it over before it leaks everywhere.
Wow. Making some juice with the passion fruit. That's Tammy's dad's workshop, so he works making custom windows and window frames. So they had just moved to this new workshop that they were still setting up. And they customized their own machines for different purposes. There's Tammy's dad and uncle and a couple of other workers. And there's someone's house that's kind of shared with the workspace. With the glass panes right on the side of the road. This is on the way back from the workshop area to where Tammy's family lives. Back at home with the dog Bap. Here we were going to the My Tho night market after dinner to look for some slides or sandals to bring on the next parts of the trip. The My Tho night market is mainly for clothes and shoes, not food. We then took the bus from My Tho to Ho Chi Minh City and a flight to Hanoi. Here we are in hazy Hanoi. That first night, I went to see Inigo Vontier, a Mexican DJ, at Savage Hanoi, which is a legendary venue that unfortunately just announced that they'll be at least closing their current location. This was the walk on the last part of the commute back from Savage, and already around 4 a.m. people are already out starting their exercise for the day. The next day we just walked the streets for food and drinks, art and other little things. And this was the view from the hotel. A lot of interesting architecture in my opinion, with a lot of houses that are tall and skinny and deep, often made out of concrete, looking a bit modernist. And some have roof patios on each floor that come outwards and look like steps. Meanwhile, there's also a mix of older buildings and roofs like that you'd almost expect to see more in the old city of Hoi An. And this is how I think of Hanoi, as just thunderstorms almost every night. But we still had to go out and get some food. The next day we took a bus from Hanoi to Ninh Binh as part of a day trip through our hotel that we organized. This was a stop on the way, so after all that rain, it was really humid and foggy and wet. It was interesting to start seeing the mountain shapes that you associate with the Ninh Binh area start to appear as we were driving there. And on this drive is the only time I saw signs for dog meat, cat meat. Here we are arriving through the communities that lead to some of these tourist destinations. The first part of the tour was to the Bai Din Pagoda complex. And you can see the parts that were rubbed off by people touching the statues. So it was very wet. And after we went up to this kind of tower pagoda, we went out the wrong side and got separated from the group and had to call the hotel to get the tour number, to call them, and then join the group before they left to the next part of the tour. Here we're heading back to where the buses are parked to go to the next part of the tour, and we were riding around this complex in these little electric carts. We're then heading to get lunch in a kind of secluded homestay type of area. Here we are arriving to the area where we'd have lunch with Lotus in the field, and for lunch we'd have a buffet of more regional Vietnamese meals. Here we are at the lunch spot. After lunch, we'd head to the next part of the tour, which is the Tam Cock boat rides. Here we are at the main attraction, the Tam Cock boat rides. And so you're 3 or 4 people per boat with one person rowing in the back.
1,5, 1,3, 1,3 vậy thôi. 4 thuyền.
The boat ride brought us in and around these famous types of mountains, and also through these caves to get between the different parts of the mountain ranges. There was a pagoda to make a quick stop at along the way. The water was apparently relatively high because of some of the rain in the last few weeks, so some places you had to really duck to get through, and if it was any higher you wouldn't be able to get through it. It's interesting to think about how it may have been like to try to live in this type of region before modern resources, and what type of animals might have been around back then too. Here we are back at the end of the boat ride. And here we are at the last part of the tour, which was to go up on a hike of the Hang Mua mountain, I think it's called. And this is the view from the top of that hike. A pretty famous view of those classic mountains of the region and the rice fields. It's definitely pretty busy up there. And there were also very steep steps, so those combined made for an interesting walk up there. There's also a lotus field to explore at the bottom if people don't want to do the hike. Here we are back on the ground around the lotus field. And this is the next day on the airplane leaving Hanoi. We then took a flight from Hanoi to Dong Hoi and a car ride from there to Vinh Linh, which is where Tammy's grandparents on her mom's side live in the Quang Tri region. Pretty sure this is the exact same set of mountains and the bridge we were crossing in the video from 2023. But last time it was at night. So this time we got to see a lot of the ride from Dong Hoi to Quang Tri in the daytime. There's a lot of sandy terrain along the way. This isn't right beside a beach, this isn't a beach, but there's sand and different vegetation growing out of it. Quang Tri was actually a pretty significant place with regards to the American War. So, first of all, Quang Tri was one of the most heavily contested areas during the war. It's just south of the demilitarized zone that was separating the North and South Vietnam. There were major battles like the Battle of Quang Tri and some other ones that took place around there, and there was a lot of destruction overall. There was also a combat base from the US around there, and there were lots of offensive operations that took place. There's one of the bridge that divided North and South Vietnam. That river actually is just by Vinh Linh, where the grandparents live, and that bridge was destroyed many times during the war and has been rebuilt since. And occasionally you'd see some tables set up on the side of the road with some remnants of large shells of bombs from the war. There were a lot of grave structures out in these fields. we're getting close to Tammy's grandparents' house. Here we are turning on the road along the rice fields near the grandparents' house, and then off of this road is where Tammy's grandparents live. Compared to last year, the driveway is now concrete instead of dirt. Here are kumquats growing freely on a plant right outside their house, way in excess of what they could use. Meanwhile, I can't find any in Canada. And there are the neighborhood kids walking by. Here we're taking a walk to one of the aunts that lives on the rice field street. Here we are at the aunt's house. These are the aunt's pigs.
I just activated it.
I think they took over the pig from the grandparents from last year. And back on the way to the grandparents. Here we were on the way to the local market to get some ingredients for dinner. This is where we'd brush our teeth or shower, on the side of the house. Some of the family wanted to visit the Our Lady of Lavang Catholic pilgrimage site again this year. You can see the remnants of the church before and the new one they built. Apparently, the story of Our Lady of Lavang dates back to the time when Catholics in Vietnam were executed or persecuted. Many people sought refuge in the rainforest of Lavang, and many became very ill. They were praying when a lady appeared wearing the traditional Vietnamese alai dress and holding a child in her arms. They said the lady comforted them and told them to boil leaves from the trees to cure the illness. Here we are going to visit Tammy's dad's uncle, who also lives in the region, unrelated to Tammy's mom's family who's in the region that we're with. We were then headed to see the Vinh Moc tunnels, which are different than the tunnels in Ho Chi Minh City that most people would tend to see. Here we are at the Vinh Moc tunnels, and right away, bomb crater. This is a ventilation shaft and a tunnel entrance.
Địa đạo Vinh Moc. Lên đây anh chị. Anh đang đi địa đạo. Anh chụp
Mát lạnh luôn á.
ai đi về Trường Chiêu. Đi Trường Chiêu đi trọng mát lạnh hả? Đi đi ba.
Here we are walking through the Vinh Moc tunnels, and there's a lot of this footage, so I'll take this opportunity to explain what the Vinh Moc tunnels were and what they were for, using a pre-written script, so bear with me. The Vinh Moc tunnels, located in Quang Tri province, Vietnam, were a strategic underground complex built during the American War. Situated near the demilitarized zone along the Ben Hai River, this network of tunnels was constructed by local villagers to evade relentless U.S. bombing campaigns and to support North Vietnamese military operations. Excavation of the tunnels began in 1965 and was completed by 1967, spanning nearly 2 kilometers with depths reaching up to 30 meters. The system consists of 3 levels, each serving a specific function. Level 1, 10 to 12 meters deep, primarily used for daily activities and quick evacuation. Level 2, 15 to 18 meters deep, served as living quarters, including storage areas, kitchens, wells, and medical facilities. And Level 3, up to 30 meters deep, provided the highest level of protection against the aerial bombings.
These little rooms are like family rooms.
Tunnels were reinforced with wooden supports and designed with a ventilation system to sustain prolonged underground habitation. Multiple camouflaged entrances allowed for quick access while minimizing detection. Unlike many military tunnels, Vinh Moc was a civilian settlement that housed around 300 people at its peak.
The electricity, they just put it out for like 20 years ago.
But it wasn't in here before.
No, but this tunnel is like almost 60 years.
The tunnel complex included living quarters, small chambers for families, medical stations providing basic healthcare and emergency treatment, a maternity ward where 17 children were born underground, kitchens designed with smoke dispersal systems to prevent detection by enemy aircraft.
That room was for delivery baby.
Wow.
Despite harsh conditions, high humidity, darkness, and cramped spaces, the tunnels enabled the local population to survive and continue supporting the North Vietnamese military efforts in the region. The American forces believed the villagers of Vinh Moc were supplying food and armaments to the North Vietnamese on the island of Con Ca, which was in turn hindering the American bombers on their way to bomb Hanoi. Vinh Moc was more than just a refuge, it was an operational base for the North Vietnamese army. The tunnels facilitated troop movement and logistics along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, ammunition storage and supply routes to support operations in the south, and coastal access for Viet Cong forces using the nearby beaches for military transport. Despite sustained U.S. bombing campaigns, the tunnels were a success and no villagers lost their lives. Only direct hit was from a bomb that failed to explode, and the resulting hole was utilized as a ventilation shaft.
So on the left, it was home to.
The meeting room is here, and this is the main part for.
It was constructed in several stages beginning in 1966 and used until early 1972. Some stats include that the U.S. Army released over 9,000 tons of bombs in the area, with a ratio of 7 tons of bombs on average per person. We then reached the tunnel exit that leads to the beach, and it's pretty surreal to think about exiting the tunnels after weeks in darkness to this calm, sunny beach. There's a camouflaged entrance to the tunnel. And here we are going all the way back up through the different levels of the tunnel. And it was really hot and stuffy in there. So even reaching the exits in the heat outside felt like fresh and cool. And we were then going to head to the museum part of the site. Here are pictures of taking soldiers across the Ben Hai River to fight the battlefield in the south of Quang Tri, also transporting arms and supplies to Con Ca Island, and soldiers on the island fighting to protect it. Shot down and captured American pilots, Vinh Linh anti-aircraft militia, and I'd recommend just pausing and reading for yourself the captions on these different pictures. Guarding the tunnel access and treating a wounded soldier in the tunnel. Also education and kindergarten in the tunnels. And grinding rice, as well as bringing rice back from the fields through the trenches. And this painting is really shocking, from the floor to the ceiling, showing American F-4 fighter jets completely destroying the civilian villages. Tammy's mom points out that it could well be her there. There's a man with the body of his wife and children who were killed by US bombs in the Vinh Moc and Vinh Tec villages after being bombed and destroyed. Meanwhile, that was it before. And that's a general store in the Vinh Linh area that is near the grandparents that was destroyed. Here's some more of the destruction in Vinh Linh from the B-52 bomb raids, and the shores of the Ben Hai River completely obliterated. Here we are in that A-frame building where they showed us a documentary about it as well. After all of that, we went to the beach. We went back to the second beach we went to in 2023. The only name I could find for this beach is Vinh Thai Beach, or Bai Bien Vinh Thai. The beaches here are very secluded and undiscovered by tourists for now. This was one of the seafood restaurants along the beach that we sat and ate and left our stuff at, with some hammocks too. And here we are back at the grandparents' house. The next day we went to see another aunt that lives in the region, just a bit farther away, so we had to drive a bit out to go visit.
Không có đâu, 250.000 một người. Vào nhà mình phải 7 giờ. Ít nhất ngoài đó tắt mặt trời là mới vào được.
Thì không biết này cái đoàn 88 mình tính ngắn như thế là khoảng mấy?
Dạ, tầm đó, tầm 1 triệu 7 là một chỗ.
Here you can see the road end and the dirt start. So the driver was trying to follow the map's shortest path, and really it took him far off the beaten path and probably where a car wouldn't be going unless they really had to. It's probably more for the motorbikes. Going to the houses right here.
Chưa gì thủy chứ đấy gì thủy cũng bối.
Từ mình gặp người ta thì hỏi á, thì được từ đi rừng đi rầy cái đấy này, hoặc là cái nhà
Này
càng sâu vào đây càng thấp này.
Cát câu. Ngồi đây ở trong gái.
Con gái có gì? Bên tốt á. Em gái.
Gọi lời là gái còn nói không phải.
Hay quá.
Ui, có chết.
Không đi. Bây giờ cứ tha hồ đi toilet.
Chứ đấy là
không ai nhìn luôn á.
có đấy thì đi thoải mái là chúng là.
Here we are at Tammy's aunt's shop. They sell drinks, coffee, sugarcane juice, coconut juice, and other convenience items or snacks here.
Lập bên lập vơ nữa, cái bên nói cháu là sai.
Chậu lai xá ăn à?
Là thế.
Dạ. Chậu.
Here's the ride back to the grandparents' house. Just looking at all the different house types and styles on the side of the road in rural Quang Tri. I'll let this run for a bit. As I was taking a walk around the block, there are just casually some water buffaloes hanging out. And as I was walking, some local kids started gathering, like you'll see in some of the next clips. Wow. Deep in the mud. Con chào. Xin chào.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know the song. Say cheese. Back at the grandparents' house for the last night, and Tammy's on the phone trying to get us a hotel for the next city. Here we are, waiting at the bus stop right around Vinh Linh to go to Danang. We took the lie-down bus from Vinh Linh to Danang. It takes about 3 to 4 hours, I think. Here we are walking the beach at night after arriving in Danang. Here's Tammy in the rooftop pool of the hotel, and from what we saw, Danang had a lot of these rooftop pools or infinity pools, which were pretty nice. Here we are at one of the main indoor markets, but mostly for clothes and shoes and accessories and souvenirs too. And here was the main outdoor night market. We paid this man to draw us. It was really interesting to watch. It took about 45 minutes. And he was talking a bit, but also really focused. He'd have to look away quickly to kind of reset. Tho! The next day we took a grab car to go up and see the Monkey Mountain. So people also go there to visit Lady Buddha, but we were mostly there to see the monkeys. There are also some pagodas up there on the mountain and some bonsai trees to see. There are a few dogs that hang around the different pagodas up there. We weren't sure where the monkeys were supposed to be. I thought maybe they might be around here, but at this point I wasn't sure if we were going to see any. Finally found where the monkeys were, which was around the parking lot for the motorbikes and also with some garbage cans. I wouldn't recommend getting that close. Specifically says not to feed them, but someone decided to give them a banana, and after that, then they started coming after people a little bit. But it was interesting to see the babies that were still learning how to open the bananas, and the adults that were opening it and eating it like a human. And I learned the hard way not to go peeking over that wall, because that's where they live and they're protective of it. So a monkey came and scratched me. After coming back from the mountain and washing those scratches, we went to the beach, and this time we were able to access the beach through a pedestrian path beside some sort of resort, and there weren't many people there, which was nice. This is along the pathway that we took.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
A lot of people are watching soccer at different coffee shops, and we didn't see the Dragon Bridge in action, but we saw some of the fireworks from the firework festival in the distance. We then flew back from Danang to Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City, and spent a few days before heading back to My Tho. And this time, compared to 2023, we stayed in a district just south of the airport, which was a lot more local and more interesting to us compared to the more touristy one around the Ben 10 market. The streets and houses and shops were more interesting here.
Nice houses.
And it just so happened to be near one of where Tammy's aunts lived. So this is on the way to Tammy's aunt's house. You can see how close some of the houses come across from each other. And this is the pool on the roof of the hotel that we were staying at. This is the infamous Boy Vien party street. We then took the bus back from Ho Chi Minh City to My Tho to finish off the trip. Here's the view from the Song Tien Annex Hotel with the ferry that crosses the water, the houses along the water, and the buildings in the hotel area of My Tho. There's a man pulling what looks to be one of the tour boats towards the houses that overhang the water. sometimes a few cockroaches around, and here's one eating some pomelo skins. Here we're on the way to Quang Tri, which is across the water from My Tho, and it's a popular place for tourists that come by the Mekong Delta.
Trai nữa không trai?
Không tin tưởng vào bản thân.
This region is popular for their coconuts with more than one variety. Here we were going to try some of the different fruits from the region and hear some of the folk music.
Trời ở đây không có mùa xuân, cũng không có niềm trăng dài.
We then went for this boat ride, which is the most popular thing that you see from tourist videos from this area, and it goes along some areas with some water coconuts. Those are the water coconuts. We then got to visit the area where they make coconut candy. So here they smash up some of the coconut pulp to more of a juice, mix it with sugar, and then cook it. And you can see them rolling it up into the packs of candy.
Hai con bên đây bị slow motion hay sao?
Né liền, mình né cho đừng nó cắt cục.
Đừng có cho nó ăn. Mất luôn rồi. Dính luôn
Dùng
đó.
cái dây xuống, cái lúc mà nó chịu
Here's Tammy's mom, who's the only one that tried getting her skin on her feet cleaned off by the fish here that are there for that.
No. Fruits and drink coconut water. No meat, nothing, just fruits and.
These are some accommodations that you can stay in. And this is back in front of Tammy's parents' house. Here's more of the waterfront in My Tho, and that big bridge in the distance, I'm pretty sure is another way to get to Quang Tri, that coconut area that we visited. After dinner, we go around for a motorbike ride around the city. Got it. This was in front of one of the job sites that Tammy's dad was working at, and some coconuts would just fall off the tree, be given to him. Walking down the road from the job site, I found this store that sells some items that are commonly seen in some households for worship or altars or other. We actually got stuck in the rain on the motorbike on the way back to the house in those clips you just saw. And here, this is one of the things that we saw at the shop near the job site. And this is at Tammy's parents' house. You can see all the art on it, all the folk art pieces. That loop you hear playing is part of the altar for Tammy's grandparents on her dad's side. That was it for the trip to Vietnam in 2024. June 2024. On arrival into Taipei on the way back, and back to reality, watching arrivals into Vancouver.